Transfer complete.
Hello and welcome to the second Facebook Subspace Transmissions commentary, this time for yesterday's Enterprise. I'm Cam Smith, and joining me on the bridge.
This is Tyler Orton, waiting to meet his destiny.
Okay, well, let's count down to the episode. 3, 2, 1, play.
Oh, Cam, it's prune juice. It's a warrior's drink.
That is quite true, yes.
I do recall that this was a recurring theme, especially in Deep Space Nine. It was brought up in, of all episodes, Way of the Warrior.
You do tell.
Continue
to tell me.
Worf ordered Way of the prune juice and Way of the Warrior, of course. I know. What did you ever make of his obsession with something like prune juice? So, do you think it was an effort for the writers to maybe, I don't know, not emasculate Worf, but
that was the exact words that were going through my head.
Okay. Well, what do you think?
Emasculate Worf. I think it underlines the fact that Worf is not as hardcore as the other Klingons.
Is that, you don't think other Klingons would drink prune juice? I just wonder if it's like his own race that's into it, you know?
I don't know. Aren't they all like blood wine all the way?
Yeah, if it's non-alcoholic, why bother?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. What do you think about Guinan, though? She's inquiring to Worf about his sex life, essentially. Like, why not see a non-Klingon woman?
Right, yeah. I mean, I like these types of conversations with Guinan. You know, they always say the bartender knows almost everything about their clients, you know, because they see them at their most vulnerable, you know, when they're drunk. Now, Worf isn't necessarily drunk here, but we're getting some information out of him. And I like that Guinan is kind of the conduit to do that.
Yeah, but the very fact that he's saying that, like, human women are too delicate for him, I'm not so sure
He changes his mind on that one.
Yeah, look, I think if it's the right woman that comes along, he'd be down for that, right?
Was this just an excuse?
How so?
He's just like, I don't really want to. That's what he's giving is the excuse why he's not dating someone right now.
Do you think Worf has kind of intimacy issues?
Oh, not at all.
Okay, fair enough. But okay, for those who don't know, I mean, yesterday's Enterprise, one of the most significant episodes here. I think we finally get to resolve the whole Tasha Yar arc that not a lot of people. I don't know, Cam, you and I just discussed Skin of Evil. We weren't fans of that, were we?
No, and I believe it was Ron Moore had said this episode is viewed as a way to essentially kill Tasha Yar properly.
Do you think by the end of the episode that they succeed in doing that?
Well, it's a great episode.
Yeah.
And it leads to Sela, so I got no complaints.
But they do kind of retcon that a little bit in that you find out that Tasha Yar doesn't actually die by the end of this. Well, she instead endures quite a horrific fate at the hands of some Romulan interrogator.
Right.
Yeah. Here we are, already into the Mirror Universe. What do you think of the uniforms, these spiffy belts that they're wearing now, Cam?
They look kind of cheesy to me. Like, one thing I really like about Star Trek is a lot of times the uniforms just consistently look great, unless you hit kind of a road bump like the motion picture uniforms.
Okay.
They seem to have a timeless feel. Those belts do not look timeless to
What
me.
about those baldricks, those sashes that those crew members are wearing?
Okay.
I'm okay with the belts, but
you-
those baldricks, that's extremely cheeseball to me.
Here's the thing. A lot of thought and effort and design went into the classic Star Trek uniforms for TNG, right?
Yeah.
How much effort do you think went into the belts and the baldricks? Probably like a couple days.
Well,
it's just one episode, right?
Yeah, and this already, I mean, they were scrambling to put it on air at the time.
Yeah.
Infamously, we know that the writers had to come up with the script over the course of Thanksgiving long weekend.
You bring that up. I was going to bring it up a little later when it showed the writing credits, but this episode is a miracle.
Yeah.
Because, it was two scripts smashed together. One that was similar to this, where two enterprises, interact, and one that was sort of a City on the Edge of Forever riff, where the Vulcan philosopher the main one was killed, and Sarek had to go back in time to become that character, kind of like Past Tense with Ben Sisko and
Gabriel Bell.
Yeah. And Michael Piller was like, let's put those two scripts together, because the second one, the Vulcan one, did have Tasha Yar in it. And that's what we get, and they were going to shoot this after Christmas, just after the holiday, and they had to bump it up because of Denise Crosby and Whoopi Goldberg's availability. So they gave it to 4 writers who broke it up and did it in a rush over the Thanksgiving weekend.
All the best to their families. I hope they enjoyed that alone time, essentially.
But I mean, Tyler, you would agree. Normally when you see 6 credited writers...
Oh, it means it's a disaster.
Exactly. And they all thought it would be a disaster.
So that brings up kind of the next question. Why does this episode work? You know, if I think maybe they weren't confident about it on the page, but going in, it works for whatever reason, right?
And it's funny because, you know, the Wrath of Khan, Nicholas Meyer had often talked about how no matter how they rewrote that script, it was so elastic, it worked. I don't think this is an elastic script. I think it's actually quite precise.
Yeah.
Like, you know, these types of time travel stories require a certain amount of crucial details and everything like that. And somehow they managed to bring it all together. And it's just, to me, a miracle.
Yeah, I wonder if... I think it's the high concept that works. It's fun for a lot of people to just picture... Because I think a lot of fans are obsessed with kind of maybe the battle parts of Star Trek. They like to think of, you know, the Federation or Starfleet as more of a military organization, and this can allow them to sort of realize that daydream that I don't necessarily enjoy personally. But it's kind of a fun what-if sort of episode, too.
Mm-hmm, it is.
And there's also philosophical questions to ponder here. You know, we'll dive into it. Geordi, of all people, brings it up later on in the episode. But do you think that this timeline that's introduced here is just as valid as the timeline that we follow for most of the run of Star Trek: The Next Generation?
I don't know.
Because this obviously had to exist for those 22 intervening years between the disappearance of the Enterprise C and its reappearance here. Does this timeline simply cease to exist, you know, after the Enterprise C goes back in time?
To me, the timeline of yesterday's Enterprise doesn't feel as concrete to me as like the Mirror Universe, where I 100% believe it's going on at all times. This one kind of strikes me almost like the Parallels situation, where it's this offshoot. There's a whole whack of them that we see, you know, with all the Enterprises showing up, but are they going on, or is it just happening in that moment, just because of all the, you know, the space-time conundrums and all so forth?
So, Cam, sliding doors or Run, Lola, Run?
Oh.
What is this?
Oh, boy. Okay, well, I mean, Sliding Doors is obviously a classic. But, you know, I just feel like if I'm going to see Picard on screen, I want, like, rave music.
Okay, fair enough.
So Run, Lola, Run.
Okay, I like it. Where's the scene of Picard almost running into a glass pane that's being carried across the street?
Excellent question. Now, would you say that Denise Crosby, Tasha Yar, is more of a Gwyneth Paltrow in Sliding Doors or a Lola?
Oh, she's a Lola.
Yeah.
You know, I think she has issues with her parents, her family, that we see in Run, Lola, Run. Mm-hmm. I think she came from a background where their drug use was a problem, and I think there's that drug use problem in Run, Lola, Run. Obviously, we're looking at layers of this film, of this episode that nobody ever envisioned before.
Right.
What do you think of the bridge here? Because, look, David Carson directed this episode, and we see paneling, a lot more of these panels all over the bridge. We also see those extra consoles. And it makes me think of that kind of redo that we saw in Star Trek Generations.
I was going to say, you can tell David Carson was warming up his darkened Enterprise look.
Yeah. Do you think it's mostly kind of the influence of Carson? Well, I don't know, because they had such a short period of time to really get this one going. I don't know how much prep time David Carson had.
I mean, honestly, if you just told me they were just like, just turn down the lights because we don't have time to put into this, you know, to really think it through, I'd believe it.
Okay.
But it works. You know, it's a simple decision that works.
What about Jean-Luc's chair way above everyone else on that raised platform there?
Where it should be.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be done with the peons. Come on.
No. Well, Riker doesn't get a seat. Troy's tossed off the ship along with Worf, essentially, in this new timeline, too.
Yeah.
There's no room for a therapist on a vessel where I'm sure a lot of people are suffering from PTSD, right?
Not at all.
Yeah. Okay. How does Wes make it onto a warship at age 16 and a half?
He's a hardened Wesley.
Is that it? With his mom? Like, Beverly is serving on this warship. She gets to bring her son along to be the helmsman?
I guess.
Does that work for you?
Sure.
Oh, okay. No questions.
I guess. I'm willing to go with it because why not? But no, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Okay. One of the things that I missed mentioning is that instead of a captain's log, they have a military log that Jean-Luc is talking into. It shows to me kind of the difference between what, like I said, that what some people envision Starfleet to be, a military organization, versus what I envision it as is an exploratory organization. And that's why I like hearing captain's log as opposed to military log here.
Right.
Like Captain Garrett, I'm blanking on the name of the actress here, but I think she actually really did service to, I guess, the first woman captain of the Enterprise, which I really dig here.
And I know the one of the original treatments that was at least half the story, it was Richard Garrett. So that was a change from the original draft.
And don't worry, got Richard Castillo.
Yeah.
What do you make of Christopher McDonald in this role?
Oh, man. Like, I like...
you buy that he's a Hispanic man?
No.
Okay.
And, the thing is, like, Christopher McDonald is an awesome actor. But, I mean, what? Happy Gilmore forever
Here he is coming out of the golfer's hole in Caddyshack,
It's all in the hips. It's all in the hips.
But yeah, you're saying a Happy Gilmore.
It's like,
another golf reference?
Do you have trouble taking him seriously? Because I kind of do.
Well, okay, this is what I'll say. I think the chemistry between McDonald and Crosby actually works here.
Yeah, written by Ron Moore. He was the one that covered the romance stuff.
I actually dig it. I buy them as a couple, as a pair that are interested in each other, and then it starts to develop into something more. And so I dig him, actually. And I think I was actually skeptical, like, first time I saw this episode, because the first time I saw this episode, in fact, I had seen Happy Gilmore before this, and it was jarring to see the biggest jerk in the world, playing, like, a Starfleet hero.
How old do you think he is supposed to be in this episode?
Oh, if you do the math, he says, hey, Tasha, if you see a man in his late 50s looking at you longingly, it could be me. And so it's essentially saying that he's probably in his late 30s right now.
Do you buy that?
Yeah. What about you?
I don't know. Being a eternally young 36, it's very hard for me to judge.
All right. I buy him as somebody who's maybe 37, 38.
Sure.
All right. Here we go. Guinan's on the bridge. We rarely ever see her here.
Yeah. Do you like that?
I think I do like that because she's clearly a civilian. Civilians shouldn't really be trouncing around on the bridge, especially on a warship like this. First of all, how does Guinan get to be in the Galaxy-class warship like the Enterprise?
Guinan has so much information that it makes her invaluable. So I don't have problems understanding why she's on the Enterprise. My question is, why is she not a consultant on some sort of level beyond just being in 10 forward as, the bartender?
Yeah, but I'm thinking like maybe in this uniform, Picard... it's clear that Guinan and Picard have a very special relationship that is very unclear to watchers. Viewers here.
Well, I think we know Whoopi Goldberg settled that at the con.
Yeah, that's true. Somebody asked her last year at the Star Trek Las Vegas convention, Cameron, and she implied that there was a little bit of something going on in maybe the bedroom in their past, right?
No, she said they were family members.
Oh, family members? Oh.
What kind of family did you come from?
I'm obviously just, projecting.
No, she said that she could be like Picard's great grandmother.
I know. Honestly, my interpretation is that there was something that happened like relationship-wise in their past.
I agree. That is what I would take from the evidence on screen.
Especially since she makes it very clear that she is attracted to bald men.
Right.
She says that right out there, so... okay, but look, it's wartime. You've got
It
Guinan,
is wartime, Tyler.
Yeah, you've got Guinan on your ship. I have to believe Picard has enough pull that he's like, I need my special counselor. If I can't have one Deanna Troi, at least give me this badass bartender in the galley. It's not even 10 forward at this point, right?
True. I have a question. Do you think Guinan kind of hurts the Troi character? Because they often play a very similar role on the show as sort of these counselors to characters.
Okay, that's true, and then they have similar like vocational roles, but
yeah,
they would always give like different advice. Like I can't imagine Guinan giving the same advice that Troi would give. Can you?
It depends on the episode. Sometimes, yeah.
Oh, really?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, I can't picture them ever giving the same advice.
I mean, I guess the difference is that Guinan is more of a like advisor. Versus like Troy's more of a counselor, obviously.
Okay. But do we ever recall Troi going and seeking some sort of counseling from Guinan, though? Some advice from her?
No, I cannot think of a scene of the two of them off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's mostly just Data. Do you think that Guinan took Data a little bit more seriously than Troi did?
I thought you were going to say than Pulaski. I don't know. I always felt like there was a lot of respect between Troy and Data. I mean, maybe not in the first 2 seasons, which are a little goofy, but that says more about the writing than, Troy.
Okay. I don't know. I just feel as if, like, Guinan took Data's, whether it's relationship issues more seriously. I don't ever see Data confiding in Troy without her kind of going, oh, yeah, that's our Data.
Wouldn't you say that, though, if you lived with Data, or saw him 24/7?
Oh, obviously.
Yeah.
Cam, what do you make of the Ambassador class starship? The design that we see on the exterior, as well as the very small glimpse we get on the bridge.
I mean, I like it. The problem with any sort of guest starring spaceship is it just doesn't have the impact of the main one, just because of the amount of time and effort that goes into the central showcase ships.
Yeah.
But I do like it. I think the Enterprise C is really cool.
Do you think it's a good, antecedent to the D to a certain degree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. But I look at like the C and like the B from Generations very similarly, where I'm like, yeah, they were cool.
Yeah.
They were, kind of like a blip on the radar of Star Trek. But
Well, I don't know. I really love the design of the Excelsior class starship, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, when that was introduced in Star Trek 3, you can really see that they were trying to evolve, the starship design in a way that stood out from the Constitution class without going kind of like the Oberth class vessel or the Reliant, whatever class, or the Miranda class vessel that was the Reliant.
Do you think we'll ever see like some sort of show where they go to like the C class level, where we're seeing like Starship C's everywhere?
You mean like a Discovery C?
Yeah, because we never really thought we'd probably get a Discovery series, which takes place 10 years before TOS.
Yeah.
Like, could we see the 24th century, or would it be 23rd? When would it be? When would it fall right into with the C's? Do you know what timeline they were?
Yeah, it'd be early 24th century.
Okay, yeah. Do you think we'll ever see a series where they're doing like where they it's just pre TNG a few years?
No.
I
think, at the 24th century, we've explored it across 500 plus episodes.
Mm-hmm.
If we get another Star Trek series after Discovery, I got to believe that they're going to go away from the 23rd, the 22nd, the 24th centuries. Those have all been explored. Why not the 25th, 26th, right?
Right, yeah.
So maybe we can get a USS Discovery F or H.
Do you go with the F? I feel like the F has a very undignified sound.
Yeah.
The Enterprise F.
The F.
Yeah, like no one wants to walk around saying, "Hey, what do you think of the F?"
Yeah.
I
or
feel like
just saying, "What the F?"
I feel like they're gonna skip to like the G or the H or something.
What about the X? Remember the 90s?
Oh.
X was always the coolest letter that people would be inserting it everywhere. The X-Files, Generation X.
Yeah, isn't it still cool?
It seems very dated at this point to insert X into everything.
Xena, warrior princess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Xercules. The legendary Xernes.
Oh, do you remember there was that show Lex that had 2 X's?
It's double X's. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Maybe we'll see the Discovery X in the 27th century.
That was where the letter X moved away from the porn industry for a short period of time.
Yeah. What did they call it? Just,
I don't know.
What about or you know what?
That would require research.
We joke about it, but we did get another Triple X movie starring Vin Diesel this year.
And we're getting another one.
I can't wait.
Mm-hmm.
Would they call it this one? That would be the 4th one. So would they call it just XXXX?
Well, they just called this one Triple X Return of Xander Cage.
Yeah.
So.
How about Quadruple X? It's the 4th one.
Maybe.
Okay.
The last one was so bad.
We digress a little bit
Yeah.
here. But what do you make of these collars that they got on their uniforms?
I like the collars. They're pretty cool.
I don't know. I like how... Well, no, I like how the other ones, they've kind of got that V shape here. These look a little stuffy, like they're wearing like turtlenecks that are, I don't know, pulled up a little too tight.
But isn't the 24th century always kind of stuffy? This seems so much more appropriate in a way.
Yeah. What do you make
very buttoned up century.
What do you make of Yar's declaration that she's been serving straight out of the academy, which would have been 4 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
So she's now chief of security after 4 years and they're in wartime. Do you think just a lot of the other people got killed, or like how did she make chief of security after 4 years? Chief tactical officer.
I mean, Kirk made captain of the Enterprise in like
24 hours
Yeah,
in
24
Star Trek
hours.
2009. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anything's possible.
Speaking of which, this episode was actually the primary inspiration for Star Trek 2009, according to Roberto Orsi.
Well, you and I, we kind of pitched in an episode. We talked about this about a year and a half ago about what would Quentin Tarantino do if he directed Star Trek, and he actually discussed how Yesterday's Enterprise should have been kind of a Star Trek film.
Right.
And I know that Ron Moore's come out and said that when they're trying to do Generations, they go back and look at Yesterday's Enterprise, and they're like, yeah, no, this should have been the meetup between Kirk and Picard. Like, this entire conceit right here. I think it would have been a cool opportunity to bring back, Denise Crosby for the films as well.
Yeah, that always felt like kind of a missed opportunity, but I understand when you get to the movies, you don't want to have to explain characters who the, general audience isn't really that familiar with them.
Yeah. But I think Star Trek Next Generation was so much at kind of its zenith by 1994.
True.
That enough people would have been familiar with Yar.
Not only that, but this was the third highest rated episode of the entire series with a 13.1 rating.
So do you think what was it that was drawing people in? Was it the
I
Yar
don't-
factor?
They must have had a hell of a trailer.
Yeah. All right. What do you make of the elevated table here? This reminds me a lot of the Battlestar Pegasus, another that was featured in Battlestar Galactica that Ron Moore did. This very much looks like the CIC on the Pegasus here with this raised table, the transparent military diagrams in the background here. What do you make of it?
I think it's
Kind of the alternative to the observation lounge where people literally are lounging in those nice chairs.
I just really like how they've mixed up the visual language of the show for this alternate timeline, because it would be so easy to be lazy about it.
Okay.
Let's talk about the moral conundrum of this.
Well,
this episode, which is like, do they sacrifice the Enterprise C? What do you think? What do you think of Picard's struggle?
Okay, yeah, this scene right here, Picard's telling Guinan what she's telling him is not good enough.
Yeah.
Like, he needs more than just her gut feeling. And she's like, well, look, it's 40 billion people have already died. I think Picard
This
and
is a
Guinan,
no-win.
well, they obviously have such a strong relationship, but we do find out later on in this episode that the war is pretty much lost. They believe that they're going to have to, the Federation's going to have to give in or surrender in about 6 months' time. I don't think it's that much of a conundrum for Picard, because he's saying, well, look, we've got no hope anyway. This could be the hope to avert any sort of war altogether. I don't like. I think it's a really strong episode. I love scenes like this where we see Patrick Stewart really get to stretch himself. Look at that glare that he's given.
That's intense.
But look, I can understand why this might be an easy decision for him.
Do you think they should have made it a harder decision? Do you think that would have made it a great episode even greater?
Oh, absolutely. I love it when Star Trek's at its best when you have like a bad decision and a worse decision. You have to decide between those.
Right.
Ooh, Whoopi's like, what is this crew member doing here? Why is Tasha, why does she not belong here on my 10 forward?
Does this episode just make you wish Denise Crosby had never left?
Well, that's a very good question. What would... She totally would have continued fitting in well on the series if they had continued giving her as much to do as they do here in this episode.
Do you think they ever would have?
No.
Or do you think she would have just fallen even more victim in season 2?
Well, let's play our own what if scenario here. Let's say Denise Crosby never left. We did hear from one Marina Sirtis that the plan was to scrap at least one female cast member.
Right.
Marina Sirtis is convinced she was only saved because Gates McFadden chose to leave, and Denise Crosby also chose to leave before season 2 started.
Right.
Let's say Denise Crosby stuck around. I don't know, maybe Marina Sirtis would have left the series. What would Worf have been doing for 7 years?
Counselor.
Is that it? Okay.
Yeah. Counselor Worf.
I don't know, like he would have had to wait until what, like season 4 until Wes left, and then he would have officially been helmsman?
Yeah.
Helmsman Worf.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
It would have been an interesting parallel. Maybe that's we should do a parallel series all about that.
Helmsman Worf.
Or Counselor Worf.
He would never have had to change, from red to gold back to red again for Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. It is interesting, though. Had they written Troy out, you can see how Guinan would have taken that role.
She really would have.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I mean, Whoopi Goldberg appeared in probably, like a third of the episodes? Maybe
Right.
not that many, but like maybe at least a quarter, like a very good chunk. I can see her being kind of that Troy role, as you were alluding to earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Also, what would Barclay be doing in this particular universe? Is he serving aboard the Enterprise?
He has to be.
Doing what?
He's also a counselor.
Okay.
I like to imagine like alternate reality. Barclay is like really together.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay. I dig. Like war has shaped him into a manly man.
That's right.
Okay.
He's like Rambo.
I dig. What about
You're not expendable, Barclay.
Well, there's no civilians on this, so Keiko O'Brien likely did not meet Chief O'Brien.
Mm-hmm.
Those two aren't a matchup.
Aren't happily married.
I kind of wish... Yeah, no kidding. I kind of wish that we got to see a little glimpse of O'Brien in this one, but can't win them all here.
That's the problem with kind of being just a side player. Unless when you've got an episode,
it's a busy episode too.
It is, and this was the last episode that had like all 9 original cast members on the show.
Yeah,
and then you've got all these other new characters like Rachel Garrett and Richard. What's his last name?
Castillo.
Thank you, Richard Castillo.
Guinan's on this one too.
Exactly. Like there's no room for
like you can't get Barclay and O'Brien in there too.
Yeah. They ended up having to cut death scenes out too. Originally, like Wesley was going to get decapitated.
Yeah, I think Data was going to get electrocuted.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
I like how Riker and Picard are snapping at each other. They're not as buddy-buddy in this universe.
This is the beauty of alternate realities on Star Trek or alternate timelines, is that we can have conflict between the characters. Oh, it's beautiful.
It is. Yeah, that's just it's. A lot of people are up in arms that Star Trek Discovery will feature conflict between the characters. I say bring it on. It's what good drama should be, and we saw a lot of it in Star Trek: The Original Series. Discovery is a prequel, so I don't think there's any continuity issues, or it's going to be a violation of what Gene Roddenberry set out to do here.
Right. Now, we just watched a scene where Picard is kind of laying out the timeline scenario to his staff. I'm curious, do you view this as a complicated episode?
No, I actually follow it pretty easily.
Because let me read a quote from Jonathan Frakes. He admitted, "To this day, I do not understand yesterday's Enterprise. I do not know what the blank happened in that episode. I'm still trying to understand it, but I like the look."
I don't know. And look, the writers didn't think this was going to be a good one either.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's that you hear so often over time, like Jaws, in 1975, like no one involved with that movie thought it was going to work.
Right.
I feel like this was kind of
their Jaws?
Yeah, in a way it was, because it was kind of a disaster. And it's been voted the greatest episode of the series 6 different times by including Starlog, TV Guide, and Entertainment Weekly. So it's a very prestigious episode.
Yeah. One of the things I wish they had time for, I think it was cut out of the original script, but more of a Data and Yar kind of interaction going on here. We get this one scene, the turbolift,
yeah.
But there's something about that Data Yar connection that I wish they were able to touch upon with Denise Crosby's reappearance here.
I suspect there was probably some things there that got cut out.
Yeah,
just for time.
Okay, Cam. So, do you think overall, when we're talking about an episode like yesterday's Enterprise getting voted, the top Star Trek Next Generation episode multiple times, where does this one maybe fall on that list for you? Is it in your top 5? At least that conversation?
Is it my top 5? It's definitely, I think, in my top 10. I don't know that it'd be my top 5. Because there's, when I'm thinking top 5, I mean, Inner Light is obviously in there. Best of Both Worlds Part 1.
Yeah, to me, it's more of the kind of the ones that have more of that emotional wallop. But this one is, it can carry that emotional wallop for a lot of people. Plus that high concept sci-fi thing. I think for a lot of people, this kind of covers the bases. But for me, I agree. I don't know if I'd put this in a top 5, even though it is clearly an exceptional episode. Because there's, like, maybe I'm just a softie. Mm-hmm. Like the room will get a little dusty when the Inner Light's on, for example.
Right.
All Good Things.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that stick out. Darmok.
Chain of Command.
Yeah. Man of the People.
Cost of Living.
We'll always have Paris.
The Royale.
Up the Long Ladder.
Symbiosis.
Code of Honor. We could name mediocre Star Trek Next Generation episodes for a long, long time.
That's a whole other podcast.
So what do you think of Captain Rachel Garrett's dilemma here? She's being sent back in time to die, essentially, in order to stop a war that she is not experiencing in her own timeline. How well does she sell it here?
I think the actress does a great job.
Yeah.
Trisha O'Neill. Her and actually Christopher McDonald were big Star Trek fans already when they got this job. But I think she does a really good job. It's one of those characters that just by virtue of the fact it's a very standalone episode,
Yeah.
you're never going to see her again. But it's kind of a bummer because I just would have liked... So often on Next Gen in particular, because it was much more episodic than some of the others, they introduce these great characters you're just never going to see again. And I think there's so much room to explore some of them. She's obviously one of them. I actually prefer her to like Castillo. I like Castillo in this episode, but he's not a character that I'm like, boy, I want to know more about him.
Okay, fair enough. I think he's a more engaging character. She seems a little bit more aloof, but I agree with you. Like Garrett's somebody that there's more room to explore. Kind of like a Shelby character, where Shelby at least got 2 episodes, but man, why did they not bring her back?
Yeah.
That kills me there.
I know.
Okay. Well, what do you make of the kind of uniform redesign that we have with these TOS uniforms that apparently they've been wearing for about 60 years, but they got rid of the collars?
I like the nod to the Star Trek II Wrath of Khan uniforms. Yeah. Look, we've talked about that in our costumes episode. They're among the best looking Starfleet uniforms there are. So why not bring them back? And I'm sure they just took an actual and just ripped some parts off of it and were like, put this on.
I'll appreciate the fact that, you can see that they are using the insignia as a comm badge,
right?
Which I buy.
Mm-hmm.
Some good acting on their part, pretending it works. Okay, so we got like a bird of prey attacking the ship now. What do you imagine the scale of the bird of prey to be?
I am the worst person in the world to ask a question like that, too.
The problem is these birds of prey change in scale every time we see them.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're tiny. They're maybe like 4 decks. Other times they're half the size of a Galaxy-class starship.
Right.
Where'd all those rocks come from? Why are there... Why
the
is
real
there,
problem is falling rocks.
Yeah, why is there a quarry on the bridge? Now, this is a pretty brutal way for somebody to go out here. I'll look at Riker looking badass behind Picard.
That's an intense... Jonathan Frakes is so good at looking intense. Yeah. I think right now he's trying to understand the script.
Wow. Look, buzzsaw in the head. They want to make sure we know she's dead.
Ice cold.
That's why you don't keep rocks on the bridge, Cam.
Or buzzsaws.
What is a piece of shrapnel doing? Like, they need to make some more safety options aboard the vessel, right?
They don't have very good safety options on the bridge, really. It's like when that thing starts shaking, good luck.
Yeah, why do those consoles explode all the time? Haven't they figured it out? Yeah, they literally blow up in people's faces.
Yeah.
Has that ever happened to you?
Oh, so many times.
Have you ever been on like a cruise ship and it gets a rockin' and your laptop blows up?
We'll find out at the Star Trek cruise one year.
Okay. Well, we're going ahead and looking at them debate Castillo in command. Mm-hmm. Do you buy Richard? He's the last, I guess, senior officer left. He's the helmsman. He's the Wesley, essentially,
right.
Taking command of the Enterprise.
And there's a real resemblance between him and Wesley.
Yeah. He's kind of, I guess, the George Kirk of the crew at this point.
Yeah.
He gets command of a ship for maybe 7 minutes, essentially.
That's a scenario we don't see enough on Star Trek, is the person forced into being a captain. Like, we saw it in Star Trek 2009. We see it here. But it's something I would like to see examined over a more prolonged period. It's like someone who wasn't prepared to be the captain, suddenly being forced to be a captain.
Yeah. I wonder if maybe we'll get that same treatment in Star Trek Discovery.
Good luck, Captain Lorca.
Look, it'll be fun with whatever they do with Discovery. Hope we are not dating ourselves too much, because that'll be premiering in a few short months.
Right.
Here we go. We get that chemistry again between these two actors.
Ron Moore did a fantastic job with this dialogue.
Like, I buy it, but I have to give props to the actors too.
Yeah. And it's not easy to sell like romances of the week, and they do a pretty great job. How did this not make our best one-time flings or whatever?
Because we're cold-hearted jerks.
I guess so.
Yeah. It's just funny because I usually don't buy the one-episode romance, and there's so much story to tell here. I'm not somebody who'd usually buy into this, but I buy those two characters together.
Yeah, no, totally.
See, perfect moment for Chief O'Brien to say beaming away or something like that. Just why not give Colm Meaney that paycheck?
Tasha Yar is such a tragic character too. Like nothing ever goes well for her.
No, not even in a parallel universe like this.
No, and Sela, good lord.
Oh man, do you think Sela's a bratty child?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Spoiled.
Yeah. Do you think that's an unfortunate outcome of this episode? Is the Sela story?
Any excuse to get Denise Crosby back, but maybe Seela's not our favorite character. Can we agree on that? In that maybe her plan doesn't make much sense.
I guess I like Seela. I don't like anything they did with Seela.
Yeah, like none of the you like the character stuff, not the story stuff. Yeah. I love this scene. You know, she's explaining this meaningless death that Yar endured before Guinan ever got to meet her.
Would this scene have been improved by a quick flashback to Skin of Evil?
Quick, by like 12 minutes long? I'm down for it.
An Armis flashback?
I will get you.
He has very low emotional intelligence.
No, I don't.
Or maybe just, that elongated funeral scene in the holodeck. Where you, if I recall correctly, Cam, you believe that Tasha Yar was buried in the holodeck.
Wait, she's not?
Yeah. Not in this universe, at least. But I love that scene between them, because Tasha realizes, why am I going to commit myself to disappearing in this universe if I have no future here? Mm-hmm. I like those kinds of questions. Those are the things that I think that's actually the tougher decision than what Picard has to go through. The war is pretty much at an end. This is a last-ditch effort. He's going nuclear, essentially. Yeah. Tasha, she has the real existential crisis. This is truly an existential crisis for her.
Yeah. Do you think there was ever even a modicum of thought about bringing her back to the series permanently? Like, you could have easily figured out a way to write it so that her character stays aboard the D.
Well,
somehow.
Like Seela's character?
Yeah.
You know what? I'll say this. It was a different era of television. I think it would have been tough at that time. It would have confused a lot of audiences, because that's what they're always concerned about, the studios. Like, oh, this will be confusing to the audience.
Yeah.
Don't you feel like you'd have to explain her presence like almost every episode?
Yeah.
It's tough. I would have liked to have Seela integrated somehow. She could have been another defector. We've seen that before in Next Generation.
Here's a question for you. If they ever reboot Next Generation as like a movie series or whatever, TV series, does Tasha Yar come in and stay on the show?
Yeah. I imagined it in my head. I actually I imagine her dying off maybe midway through whatever, I don't know, Netflix series, or I guess CBS All Access reboot.
Yeah.
Or if it's a film series and they do 6, maybe she'll die in number 3. I don't picture her dying off in the first 12 minutes to make room for Worf. I find them giving Worf something to do.
Yeah.
I think you'd have enough. You've had 30 years to figure out what Worf could have been doing on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe...
Because I wouldn't like to imagine they would ignore her like say, Rand with the new movies.
No, I can't imagine they would. I think she's still a pretty iconic piece of the puzzle here.
And Denise Crosby in this episode is so great.
She really proves why, like, I don't blame her for wanting to go to other acting opportunities. She could have just been cashing paychecks for 7 years. Why not stretch herself? And I don't know. Not that Pet Sematary is a fantastic showcase for her, but
right.
I understand why she wanted more of an opportunity to act.
And there's that Chaos on the Bridge documentary where the then president says, like, she's no Katharine Hepburn. But it's like, you would look at her performance here in this episode, in the scene here with Picard, and then compare it to the material she had in like season 1, talking about the penalty box or whatever. And it's like, this is an actress who can bring gravitas to a scene really well. And she's acting opposite Patrick Stewart, the king of gravitas.
I know.
And so you can just see, with how much of a difference the material makes, not just for Star Trek or for Denise Crosby, but for actors in general, which is why I'm always I try to be nice to actors when I'm seeing like a really crappy movie and you can tell they're bombing.
Yeah, especially if it's an actor that you've seen do well prior to that.
Yeah.
You're like, maybe it's the director, maybe it's the script. I'll try to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
But that last scene, you brought it up. She's talking about how if she is going to die, she wants her death to actually count for something at this point. Which, after Armis, I don't blame her.
What are you talking about?
Kim, I think your mom's calling you. Wow. The two... That you thought they had their goodbye.
Yeah. This is like Lord of the Rings scenario, multiple endings to this romance. They're jumping on the beds practically.
He seems delighted to see her. He's not really trying to talk her out of going on this suicide mission.
Yeah, Christopher McDonald is not an actor I often think of as like a warm actor,
Sure.
but he has that in this episode, and
Yeah,
it's something
charisma.
and it's something that's ignored pretty much the rest of his career. Like,
Right.
Happy Gilmore really marked where his career was going from then forward.
Yeah, you can kind of like perpetually in like sitcom of the week sort of deal.
Yeah, or if he's in movies, he's like the big, asshole or whatever.
Yeah.
Or
Man,
or Leave It to Beaver.
Look at both the Riker and Picard just looking badass at that tactical console.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look at that lighting. It's so moody. Picard in shadows. I love this sort of stuff.
Do you think their eyes hurt staring at these bright screens?
I don't care. It was worth it.
I always had that big appreciation when they got the blue light dimmer on my iPhone. Like,
Right.
so at about 10 o'clock, it goes into more of a golden shade. Maybe that's what they have to do with all these consoles here.
So often, Next Generation, DS9, and Voyager are really poor when it comes to moody lighting.
Yeah.
Like, original series is really great about it. But when we get to the 24th century, just because of the TV design at that point, set production design, they just didn't really embrace that sort of feel.
No.
Everything's very flat. But I love how episodes like this allow them to be moody and really change up what you would normally get out of a Star Trek episode visually.
So we had those, I think they call them Kavork class battle cruisers. I call them birds of prey.
Right.
What makes these Kavork class battle cruisers? Is it the scale? Is it a scale issue as well?
I'm consistently confused by the Klingon ships.
So what is that guy, that console behind Data there? What is he up to exactly? Like, what does that console do?
Well, I'm trying to think. Is there a position that other bridges have in other series that there's no job assigned on the Enterprise? Could he be doing that?
He could be the like Neelix's job, like the chef, or the morale.
that's what
no,
he's doing.
It's the morale officer.
Okay, he's coming up with a meal plan and a party. See, this is a really bummer scenario. So he's planning a party to cheer everyone up afterwards.
I think he's part of the ship's band.
Okay, yeah.
He's the first chair of the
well, we know
tuba.
Riker's the trombone, so what? He's the tuba.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. It's a little. How many people do they need on that tactical console?
They're like, really bunch in there, guys.
Yeah. Now look at Geordi. Geordi's doomed to die, right?
Yeah.
In pretty much every scenario.
Do you think this Geordie's more charismatic?
You know, he did have he was questioning Picard about kind of the timeline stuff. I appreciate they making Geordi sound smart.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Do you think it would have been fun to make the characters really dynamically different in this timeline?
Well, I like the subtle hints that we get.
Yeah.
You know, if the Picard and Riker relationship isn't so cozy.
Right.
I think it would have been better. And Picard's, he snaps at people a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they had kind of hammered things home, like if Crusher had like a drinking problem, or if
Wesley was like the bad boy of the ship.
yeah, or I don't know, Geordi, he wasn't just seen impaired, but he had like he lost his legs like Nog did in some battle. Like there's other elements going on here,
Someone has to have an eye patch too.
and that's not Data, that's lore.
Yeah.
You know, just all these little riffs off of it. Have you been following the new comic book following the Next Gen crew in the Mirror universe?
I think I haven't.
Okay. I'm intrigued by that
I
kind of
might
idea.
actually, you know what? When it comes out on trade paperback, I might pick it up.
I love the idea of the Next Gen crew in the Mirror universe, and it's one of my big disappointments that we never got to see that realized.
How did that book never get written way, way back? It must have, right? There
I-
must be
I
a
have to
TNG
believe-
Mirror Universe book.
I believe there has to be somewhere, right?
There has
Unless
to be.
Simon Schuster's really clamping down on what they'll accept and what they won't.
I think we know they didn't.
I've read some of those. Some of those books are better than others, and the ones that aren't so great, you can tell.
How many Next Gen books do you think you read?
At least 6 or 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Out of about 300?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
More rocks.
More rocks, yeah. How much debris
Wow.
is there? Wow.
That's brutal. That's a quick death by a rock. How did the rock cut his throat?
Yeah, that's an excellent.
And I'm, of course, talking about Dwayne Johnson. Oh, Patrick
that's an
Stewart.
action shot. Jumping over
The
the
flip.
Yeah.
Booyah. That's what Patrick Stewart has always been begging for, just more action moments like that.
And he would get them when we got to the movies.
Watch him push those buttons there.
I love when they have the fire in like the foreground.
Yeah.
It's always funny because the actor's standing a long way away from that fire.
Yeah, no kidding. No, Patrick Stewart made them get it right into his face. So
Yeah.
he's like, make them see I can sweat.
Yeah.
There we go. Back to the regular universe. And,
Look
Worf's
at
there.
that flat lighting. No mood here.
Yeah. Was it a missed opportunity that we did not get to see an appearance of evil Worf in this other universe here?
That would have been pretty cool. He has to have an eye patch, right? Someone has to have an eye patch.
Yeah, but I wonder though, what would Worf have been doing, because he would have still been raised on Earth, because this happened 22 years in the past, and Worf, I think, is at this time he's in his mid-20s.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Do you think he's like? Is there something dark going on? Like he's in an internment camp for Klingons or something?
That or he did become a soccer star.
Yeah. Wow. For those who don't know that reference, that's a "Let He Who's Without Sin" shout out.
Yeah.
A very dark episode that you wouldn't normally suspect. Look, it's Geordi. He's in the mirror universe, or the alternate universe uniform.
Right.
Did alternate Geordi sneak back through?
That
that
explains why he's so inconsistent to character from this point forward.
Do you think he's just faking it for the rest of the series? He's like, I don't care what Tasha Yar wants to do. I'm saving my own skin. I'm going through this other universe.
That is an excellent question.
So what happened to Prime Universe Geordi?
Oh, he died, right?
Do you think he, like, I don't know, threw him into a warp core and took his place aboard the ship? I bet they have enough similarities in background that he could just be faking it. He's like, oh yeah, I know you.
Both of them are kind of prickly. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I buy that.
So we've reached the end of this episode. We're watching the credits now. Overall, does this episode, do you think it's improved with time?
I would not say that, because I think as I watch more Star Trek episodes, I come to like others and appreciate others in a depth that I did not appreciate, back in, say, the 90s.
Right.
So, for example, I'll give you The Perfect Mate is an episode at the time that I watched it. I just kind of shrugged my shoulders at, but now I really, really dig it. Same with Who Watches the Watchers. Those are the kind of more layered episodes. This is a very fun, action-heavy, high-concept sci-fi episode, but I don't know. What are your thoughts, Cam?
I just wonder if having more time to rewatch it and see it on Blu-ray and everything, the ambition of it just becomes more and more impressive given the fairly strict rules they had to follow in syndicated TV at that time.
So this one, it has aged well for you.
I think to me it has very well. It's the episode that feels the most among the most like something that could happen now in TV versus like a lot of the other shows.
Okay.
Feel very 90s, 80s television.
Should we expect season 1 finale of Discovery to be called Yesterday's Discovery?
Oh, that'd be great.
Okay,
so
then we get Discovery going forward in time and meeting the Discovery X.
Triple X.
Yeah.
So that wraps up our Yesterday's Enterprise commentary.
I'm sorry, no. It doesn't. They do what they should have called the in Star Trek Enterprise, the ship,
what?
The NXX-01.
Oh.
The X's were still popular back then.
That's very true.
Anyways, I apologize, Cam.
So we hope you enjoyed, and this is again a thanks to everyone who clicked like on our Facebook page. Continue to do that, and when we get to the next 100, we'll have another commentary, and who knows what series it could be that time.
We'll change it up, I think.
Yeah. Who knows? I think it'll be one of your favorite season 1 Enterprise episodes, preferably involving temporal war stuff.
Can't wait for Strange New Worlds with hallucinogenic rock monsters.
Okay, so you can also reach us on the Twitter. I'm at Cam. V is in Vulcans were not harmed in this episode. Smith.
You can find me at Reporton. That's REPORTONN as in NXXX01.
Okay, so until next time, the arena is closed.
Transfer complete.